Good morning, or good afternoon, evening, dead of dead of night, whatever the case may be. For me, it's a new day, and that means reading news and drinking coffee, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's jump right into it, and we're going to start with something a little bit closer to home for me. I'm in South Australia, and we've just had an election, a state election. So we for those who don't know, in Australia, we've got a federal government, and then each of the states has a relatively independent state government. And we've just had our elections for that. And the Liberal leader, Stephen Marshall, has now been sworn in. We had that on Saturday, so we knew the results, yesterday. But I mean, hell, we knew them Saturday night, really. But is it a surprise? Not particularly. We had a couple of interesting developments in the election. Namely, a politician who goes by the name of Nick Xenophon, who has been a fairly large name in South Australian politics for the past several years. Well, not just several years, for a very long time, really. He's always had fairly good backing, a certain popularity behind him that a lot of the other people just didn't have. I mean, so many people in South Australia know the name Nick Xenophon, but not all too many people know the names of the other leading politicians in this election cycle. So he made a big push for it this year, and he got nowhere. And instead, the Liberal leader won, which I should point out, Liberal is not entirely accurate. They're not liberal as many people conceive them to be. The word liberal doesn't mean. People have differing opinions on what liberal means, apparently, because the Australian Liberal Party is our right-wing party, not our left-wing party. Our left-wing party is Labour, but they haven't been putting out any particularly good policies recently, so it's no surprise that the Liberal leader won. Let's have a little look here. This is kind of old news to me, simply because I'm in South Australia, so this is kind of redundant news for me, but have a look at it anyway. There's 2 seats that remain too close to call, and a bunch of pre-poll votes need to be checked still, but that won't change the effect of anything. Last I saw, the Liberal Party won 24 seats to 18, which is a pretty significant win. Their vote is slightly down, and there's actually been a slight swing to Labour in some seats. So in some ways they haven't done as well in their campaign against Labour as one would expect, mainly due to a favourable boundary redraw. I'd contest that. I mean, I'm curious as to how many people actually watch politics, who don't just have a party that they vote for. Most people, I imagine, have a party that they vote for, that they have always voted for, and that they always will vote for, independent of what their policies may be. Most people simply aren't issue voters. They're party voters, and they vote along party lines. So, I think the majority of people in South Australia are likely, there's probably a strong trend towards the Liberal Party in South Australia. I would be curious to see some stats on that, and I might actually do a video on that if I can find some relevant information. But let's jump on to the next one. Let's say this one. Hillary Clinton says she never meant to cause offense by claiming white women voted Republican because of their husbands. Well, that's a fun one, isn't it? She's drawn the ire of both sides of the American political spectrum for suggesting white women voted the way they did because of their husbands. She's been forced to publish a lengthy explanation for her recent comments. And during the same trip to India, well, actually, no, was that from the... Yes, it was. She described how her voters tended to come from more wealthy areas than Trump voters, which is kind of... goes without saying, doesn't it? It's what people have been saying the entire time. Hillary Clinton's voters were, in large part, from the coastal elite cities. The places that are highly packed with people and highly packed with wealth. Her voters didn't come from the inner states, the so-called flyover states of America, where people aren't as well off. That's not exactly a point in her favor, having the wealthier people vote for hers. Her candid views were reminiscent of the moment during the election campaign when she described Trump supporters as deplorables, and boy did that backfire. That backfired so hard that there's still people calling themselves deplorables today. I understand how some of what I said upset people and can be misinterpreted. I meant no disrespect to any individual or group. And I want to look to the future as much as anybody. There seems to be a common trend among self-identifying feminists to insinuate that women of one group or another are subservient to men, that they don't make their own decisions, that they will do something just because their husbands say to do so, which is completely contrary to all of the beliefs that they have been espousing for decades. So you'd think that there would be, some sort of change that would have happened there. Or perhaps it's just that not all women are Democrats, Hillary. Perhaps some women, and as the election in 2016 demonstrated, perhaps a lot of white women simply didn't agree with the Democratic Party line. Now, whether that's because they supported Trump, or because they opposed Hillary, or because they supported Bernie and would have rathered Trump over Hillary, but would have ultimately preferred to have Bernie, no idea about that. But the case is that people voted in a way that Hillary Clinton didn't like. That does not mean that they are subservient. It means they voted the way they wanted to vote. Of course, I said self-identified feminist, which Hillary is, although I highly doubt she's actually a feminist. I imagine she's whatever the polls would like her to be. She's a chameleon. She's able to, well, not able to, she just is whatever is most popular at any one point in time. She'll support whatever cause she thinks will get her the most votes and the most popularity. Obviously, that didn't pay off in the 2016 election. Her response, she said, was simply part of an attempt to analyze the election results, which she's still doing. The election ended in 2016. She lost over a year ago. Several months over a year ago, and she's still attempting to analyze the election results. The reason she's probably still attempting to analyze them is because she's ignoring the actual reasons, which is that she was a shitty candidate and people didn't really like her that much. Like most Americans, people overseas remain shocked and dismayed at what they're witnessing daily. My first instinct was to defend Americans and explain how Donald Trump could have been elected. It's never about herself, is it? The blame is never on her. It's it's pathetic. She continued to say that there was some research to suggest that women can be swayed more by men than the other way around. As much as I hate the possibility and hate saying it, it's not that crazy when you think about our ongoing struggle to reach gender balance, even within the same household. Well, you know what? Maybe she's right. Maybe women just aren't as strong-willed. But that doesn't exactly toe the feminist line now, does it? So, what have we got next? I believe we've got Vladimir Putin saying that he thinks it's nonsense that Russia would poison the former spy Sergei Skripal in Britain. Now, we covered this story last week, and I had a few things to say on it. Likely that, yes, Russia did do this. However, he's now said it's nonsense to think that Moscow would have poisoned the former Russian spy and his daughter, who are still critically ill in British hospital. I think it's more likely that it's nonsense to think that Moscow would have poisoned a former Russian spy if they knew it was going to turn out as badly as this has. Britain says Mr. Skripal and his daughter were poisoned by Soviet-era Novichok nerve agent, and British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson said on Sunday that Russia has been stockpiling it and investigating how such weapons could be used in assassinations. But Mr. Putin, in his first detailed comments on the poisoning, said Russia has been falsely accused. Just give me just a sec. Alright, sorry about that. I'm back. I'm just a little bit congested this morning, and I don't really want to have that all over the stream. So, now, where were we? Russia has been falsely accused, according to Mr. Putin, which is an unsurprising statement. The Russian government's hardly going to come out and say, oh yeah, we did that. Kind of bungled it, but yeah, we did it. As for the tragedy that you mentioned, he said, I found out about it from the media. The first thing that entered my head was that if it had been a military-grade nerve agent, the people would have died on the spot. Secondly, Russia does not have such nerve agents. He has said that we destroyed all our chemical weapons under the supervision of international organizations, and we did it first, unlike some of our partners who promised to do it, but unfortunately did not keep their promises. We are ready to cooperate. We said that straight away. We are ready to take part in the necessary investigations, but that there needs to be a desire from the other side, and we don't see that yet, Mr. Putin said. Well, the thing is, the evidence overwhelmingly points to Russian interference in this matter. Who else would have the reason or the chemical agents to do this attack? On the same kind of general subject of Russia, Vladimir Putin has won the election with 74% of the vote, which is a surprisingly small amount considering that he was guaranteed to win. Result expected to be declared valid despite some irregularities. No shit. I mean, seriously. If anybody thought that Russia was going to end up with a different leader than Vladimir Putin, they're insane. This election isn't the interesting one. What will be interesting is the next election. However, that's not going to come for 7 years, so we've got quite a lot of time for a lot of things to change between now and then. But at that point, Putin will not be allowed to run again, at least consecutively. He will have somebody who will be able to run, in his place, most likely. And then I guess it's possible that he could do what he's done before and have somebody serve as a stand-in for him for 7 years and then jump back in again. Although I find that somewhat unlikely due to, his rather advancing age that will come into question at that point in time. However, as I was saying, the really interesting thing in Russia won't be for another 7 years when he can't run anymore. That's when we should see some interesting results. But nonetheless, he's won this year, which means that he'll be president until 2024, making him the first Kremlin leader to serve 2 decades in power since Joseph Stalin. He looked set to exceed expectations by clinching more than 73% of the vote. Turnout, which was seen as a measure of the Kremlin's legitimacy in this uncompetitive campaign, was close to 60% as of 9 p.m. GMT. The Kremlin had hoped to match the 65% who cast votes in 2012 and had initially sought a 70% turnout. Okay, so it turns out that they actually did go fairly well. Of course, whether they actually went fairly well, that's up to everybody else to decide. Let's be honest, they probably meddled in their own elections. Asked by a journalist about whether he would consider future runs for president, he responded, "What you're saying is just silly. What, am I going to sit here for 100 years? I mean, if he could find a way to stop aging, he probably would. He would probably be the leader of Russia for life." Asked about the poisoning of Sergei Skripal, he said Russia doesn't currently have chemical weapons, and it'd be nonsense. Yes, we just read this. They had a choice of 8 candidates, including the communist Pavel Grudinin, whose title to a former state fruit farm has made him a millionaire. Ah, yes, the communist millionaires. Wouldn't he just be a great leader? I'm sure Russia's very, very eager to go back to communism. You know, that thing that absolutely decimated them for decades. And Ksenia Chobak, the daughter of Putin's political mentor, who presented a liberal program. I mean, that's straying a bit far from the family tree now, isn't it? Putin's campaign chairman declared turnout to be high and needled London by suggesting that maybe a rally round the flag response by voters to the accusations over the Salisbury attack. I don't know. I mean, it's far be it from me to impose my views on Russia, but I believe that the likelihood is that the vast majority of people in Russia know that Putin isn't exactly the best guy. He's just the guy that they've got. And that it's probably quite likely that those people think he probably did poison this agent. It wouldn't be the first time, after all. Let's see. What have we got next? I'll close this one. And Britain has become a sordid, cruel, and lawless country. Deportation flights, Belfast weather, 2001's HAL computer, elephant mnemonic. And a village Waitrose. What is all of this? What is this? I don't know what this article is about. I think, oh, okay, this is a probably should have looked into this one first. This is just some letters in. Is there anything interesting in here? It would seem not. So let's jump on to the next article. No, we don't want this down here. No one can pretend Facebook is just harmless fun anymore, by Ellie Mayer Hagen. Or Hagen. O'Hagan. It'd be O'Hagan. From its stance on extremist content to its vast caches of user data, Facebook is a corporation whose power must, finally, be reined in. Now, I am in agreement with that. I have distanced myself from Facebook over the past year massively. I moved to using the Opera browser, which allows me to never actually open Facebook. The only part of it that I use is the Messenger, which I use to keep in contact with a few close friends of mine that I would otherwise have some difficulty keeping in contact with. I don't actually open Facebook anymore, and that has been so lovely. So I am in full agreement here with Ellie that their power must be reined in, because they, like a lot of other large tech corporations, have far too much power and influence in our current world, in my opinion. The revelation that Cambridge Analytica exploited the data of 50 million Facebook profiles to target American voters is indeed frightening. But Cambridge Analytica shouldn't act as a diversion from the real bad guy in this story, Facebook. It's mystifying that as his company regulates the flow of information to billions of human beings, encouraging certain purchasing habits and opinions, and monitoring people's interactions, Mark Zuckerberg is invited to give lectures at Harvard without being treated with due skepticism. I can already tell that I'm going to agree with a large amount of this article. We have now reached the point where an unaccountable private corporation is holding detailed data on over a quarter of the world's population. Zuckerberg and his company have been avoiding responsibility for some time. Governments everywhere need to get serious in how they deal with Facebook. After trolls were sent to jail for sending threatening messages to the activist Caroline Criado Perez and MP Stella Creasy, a debate ensued over whether the likes of Facebook and Twitter should be classified as platforms or publishers. Facebook is treated as if it is simply a conduit for information, meaning it is not liable for the content its users share, in the same way that BT can't be sued when people make threatening phone calls. In 2014, Ian McKenzie, a spokesperson for Facebook, said every piece of content on Facebook has an associated report option that escalates it to your user operations team for review. And I've got to say this, Facebook's support is pathetic. I had somebody a few months ago, I got a text through on my phone of somebody adding my number to their account, and I went into Facebook for the first time in a long time, and I sent off several, to the best of my ability, the best of my knowledge, I sent off several reports to the relevant areas of the support for Facebook, asking them to remove the number from that account because it was not their number, or to, do something. To this day, they sit there in my account saying, yeah, we've received this report, and I still get messages about their account on my phone. That's not acceptable. But enough of my personal experiences with Facebook. Let's continue on with the article. Additionally, individuals can block anyone who is harassing them, ensuring they will be unable to interact further. Facebook tackles malicious behavior through a combination of social mechanisms and technological solutions appropriate for a mass-scale online opportunity. But the company is evasive about the number of moderators it employs, how they work, and how decisions are made. It has started taking a firmer line on far-right content, recently removing Britain First pages from the site, but it is still resisting many legislative attempts to regulate its content. What content users then see is decided by an algorithm that can change without any consultation. Gotta tell you, my reading this morning is not on point. I'm a stumbling mess. In February 2018, the website Digiday reported on Little Things, a 4-year-old site that shut down overnight after Facebook decided to prioritize user posts over publisher content. 100 jobs were lost. The impact of Facebook's dominance means that publications are constantly scrambling to keep up with the platform's changing strategy. The editor-in-chief of Wired, Nick Thompson, recently told the Digiday podcast that there was a fear Facebook has a dial somewhere that can be turned to cut off media that gets too uppity. Much has been made of the fact that Facebook creates filter bubbles. It has been criticized for prioritizing content that users will like, meaning there is less diversity in the news stories people read, and for failing to crack down on propaganda. That's probably because a lot of Facebook is propaganda. They would make a lot of money off propaganda. In fact, Italy's new far-right star, Matteo Salvini, explicitly thanked Facebook for contributing to the country's recent election results. And of course, everybody blamed Facebook for the triumph of Donald Trump in 2016. It really does seem like Facebook and companies like Google and Twitter and Apple and Microsoft, all the big tech corporations are just too involved in our lives. Let's jump onto the next article, and we've got a notice of me ad blocking. That's hardly news. A male contraceptive pill that, according to first clinical trials, is safe to use and doesn't harm sex drive, this is great. This is great stuff. Let's see, would you take the male pill? Yes, if it was completely safe. Male contraceptive pill has been developed which is effective, safe, and does not harm sex drive, scientists have announced. In what has been described as a major step forward, the drug was successfully tested on 83 men for a month for the first time. So far, efforts to create one once-daily pill to mimic the mainstream female contraceptive have stalled because men metabolize and clear out the hormones it delivers too quickly. It means temporary male contraception has relied on condoms alone, with the main hopes for future contraceptive developments resting on a longer-acting injection or topical gel, both of which are also under development. However, the new drug, called long words complicated, or DMAU, includes a long-chain fatty acid which slows down the clearance, allowing just one dose to be taken each day. Like the pill for women, the experimental pill combines activity of an androgen, a male hormone such as testosterone, and a progestin. Tested 3 doses of DMAU, 100, 200, and 400 milligrams on 100 healthy men between 18 to 50 years old, 83 of whom completed the study. They were subject to blood sampling for hormone and cholesterol testing on the first and last days of the study. The highest dose, subjects showed marked suppression of levels of their testosterone and 2 hormones required for sperm production. Not sure about the suppression of levels of their testosterone, mainly because that is quite important for the male body, not just for obviously sperm production and everything, but it's a large part of the reason for our biological differences. hair growth are, well, figures. A lot of it comes down to testosterone. So I'm not entirely sold on just lowering our testosterone. That seems like a bad move. However, the 2 hormones required for sperm production, that sounds decent. Results showed that the pill worked only if taken with food. Despite having low levels of circulating testosterone, very few subjects reported symptoms consistent with testosterone deficiency or excess. These promising results are unprecedented in the development of a prototype male pill. All groups taking DMAU experienced some weight gain, as well as decreases in HDL good cholesterol. So this does have some significant drawbacks there. The weight gain is likely a result of the lowered testosterone levels. So reading further into this, I may have taken this poll and said no instead, because that does not appeal to me at all. I'd rather just wear a condom than gain weight and less good cholesterol. I already have too high cholesterol as is. Many men say they would prefer a daily pill as a reversible contraceptive rather than long-acting injections or topical gels, which are also in development. Contraceptive pills for females have been available for almost 70 years. Yes. Yeah, it started off sounding good and quickly became not so good. Oh, let's say, what's the next article we've got here? We've already read this one and this one. So, is Facebook being honest with you about how it targets ads? Online ads can feel like they know you better than you know yourself. Ads for baby clothes before a pregnancy is confirmed, hotel ads when you're only dreaming about travel. It's little wonder that there's a rumor Facebook listens to you through your smartphone microphone even when you're not using the app. Okay, so I've done a little bit of marketing before, of affiliate marketing, sorry. And you know, I know some of the targeting stuff of Facebook. And you know, I'm good at it, but doesn't mean that I enjoy doing it. So Facebook's denied that they listen to people through their smartphone microphones, and doesn't have to eavesdrop. Digital targeted advertising is increasingly sophisticated. Since 2014, the social media giant has shared information about where and why you're being targeted. This appears when you click on "Why am I seeing this ad?" in the corner of a promoted post. Twitter has a similar tool, but how transparent are Facebook's messages? Ad explanations should help users control, verify, and protect their data, according to Anna Goga, a researcher in the Laboratoire d'Informatique. French words, man. They're messed up. She worked on a recent case study that suggests the company's explanations can be an incomplete picture. There are 3 key ways ads find their target through Facebook's self-service ad buying platform. Firstly, advertisers can make a target audience based on gender, age, and location. That's information you give to Facebook when you first sign up. They can also choose and exclude groups based on demographics, interests, and behaviors. A love for board games for people in the USA who have a somewhat conservative political affiliation that's quite a possible thing to do. I know that. These characteristics are inferred from your online activity, explained Matt Sherry, a digital marketing consultant at Reload Media. That activity might be on Facebook or it might be on other sites and tracked by Facebook cookies. Secondly, advertisers can add attribute targeting from data blockers. In Australia, Facebook confirmed it works with 3 data brokers: Axiom, Experian, and Quantium. Brokers typically model consumer insights from things like purchases, loyalty schemes, and surveys, as well as other sources. Modeling might range from people who have mortgages to marital status. According to its website, Experian has a list about new parents that's updated weekly. The third way to target ads is through custom audience. Say you want to serve ads to regular shoppers, you can upload their email addresses or identifying attributes. And of course, new technologies and ways of targeting are constantly being developed. What does Facebook tell you about ad targeting? They have two parts: one key reason why the advertiser is targeting you, and a broad statement that there may be other reasons why you are seeing this ad, including that the advertisers want to reach a certain range of age and location. Has this got a what they're not telling you here? The study concludes that Facebook's ad explanations are often incomplete and sometimes misleading. What we want to show in this study is you can provide explanations that are not optimal and might actually do more harm than good to users because they don't show the complete picture of what is happening. It's like they've half-baked a cake. Past ProPublica investigations have found Facebook ads could be aimed at people who expressed interest in the topic of Jew hater, for example. Facebook removed the anti-Semitic ad categories. I mean, I can see why they would have removed that as an ad category, but I can also see why some people would want it to be there. Even people on the far left or on, I can see why Jewish people might want to advertise to Jew haters, because maybe you could do something to quell that hatred. You can group this way and then users will never know your intent. That could be privacy sensitive or discriminatory. Let's see. We are planning in the coming months to give people easier ways to understand and control the data we use from partners. We're never going to know. We're never going to know everything that Facebook knows about us, or Google, or anybody. But of course, that doesn't mean we should stop trying. So, that's been the Morning Rind for today. I hope you all have a good day. If you're around later today, I will probably be streaming some games. Not sure what yet. Possibly Hyperlight Drifter, possibly Ghost of a Tale. And when Sea of Thieves comes out, I'm going to be playing that with a few friends. Although that might not be until tomorrow my time. Probably, maybe 24 hours from now. We'll see. It could be tonight even. Don't think there's anything interesting on Twitter here though. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you all have a good day.